What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? I think the volume is low. I think I did that on purpose. What's going on, man? Check this out. I'm going to keep pushing because that's what I do. Don't forget about our fundraiser, man. I'm going to make it real short since there are some haters among us that want to leave long comments about me trying to get the money up so I can go back to the Philippines. That was funny. Anyway, shoot, I can't even find the daggone thing. Y'all know good. I don't have time to be trying to scam somebody. I can't even keep up with doing what I need to do. But no matter what, you all, look, you can donate if you want. I just thought that this would be a good idea to raise the money quick. This is what I never showed. Donation box. She is doing everything she can, y'all. Any amount will do. Angelo is his name. With the broken arm, right? That's her. She works for the channel. You know, these are the people that work for the channel and stuff. Maybe I'll call myself showing the pictures to let you know that this is real. Look at the pain on his face, man. Okay, fine. So these are the pictures and everything. Let me turn that off. Boom. And y'all can donate. Links is in the description below. You can click on the more button and hit the donate, CashApp, PayPal, whatever the case may be, if you want to help me out. Because now that I've seen some of these comments that I see, I think I'm trying to debate on the next time I'm going back to the Philippines. I want to go over there for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I think I might just go for Christmas. I know I'm gonna be there for Christmas, but doing Thanksgiving and Christmas, I might be there too long. So, and the tickets is already paid for, so this don't have nothing to do with that. You feel me? But since no matter what, I tried to say I would pay for half. Whatever, if we get $2, he's gonna have that operation, believe that. And for all the people who think that they just trying to get me for my money, there's been plenty of times they asked for money. There's been plenty of times people asked me for money and the answer was no. I bought land over in the Philippines because that's what Uncle Mike want to do. Not in the land that she bought, I don't even like it. But it's funny. It's a little joke. It's a little piece of land. It ain't no real land. It ain't like I'm rich and we ain't by the beach. That's what I want to be by. Anyway, sometimes putting too much information out there is not good. But you know how Uncle Mike roll. I don't care what you think. I'm enjoying myself and I'm sharing my real self to you guys. So my fiance that's in the Philippines, she feel the same way I do. And I still think all women are beautiful because that's how I think. And speaking of a beautiful lady, here's one up here in the red. Look here, man. Breaking. Trump appears multiple times in Epstein's files. DOJ confirms, baby. DOJ confirms. I already knew that. You don't have that type of prestige and hang around Diddy and take pictures with Diddy if you wasn't on the airplane. You don't do that. You had too many pictures of Epstein and all these men that's rich and super duper rich. I call it super duper rich, baby. Ah, boy, man. I had it's bad. Y'all make life hard for no reason. I had a rest in peace. I got to go to a funeral Thursday. I got a close friend of mine who passed away. I got to go to a funeral. I got all kinds of things in the family and everything. Things happening in the Philippines, broken arm, all this stuff, man. And then you got to worry about all the comments and the people saying negative things in comments. I thought your mother taught you that if you can't say anything nice, don't say nothing at all. So I'm doing the best I can with my channel, my way, the way I like to do it. So y'all hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Let's check this bad boy. Yeah. Look at it. Look at it. See, I'm human. I made a mistake again. The mute button was on. Here we go.
The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Justice Department officials told President Trump in May that his name was among many names mentioned in the Epstein files. This is something the White House is now labeling as, quote, fake news, end quote. Our panel will be here to weigh in. Is among many in the Epstein files that he was told at this meeting. The files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past, some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said that they contain hundreds of other names.
All right, so let me ask you something. When was the last time you heard about Jeffrey Epstein in the news? Like, really heard about it? Not some random Twitter thread or conspiracy theory, but actual official government documents confirming what everyone's been whispering about for years. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because here's the thing. The Department of Justice just confirmed something massive. And I mean massive. President Trump's name appears multiple times in Epstein investigation files. Multiple times. Not once. Not in some footnote. Multiple times. And the craziest part, the DOJ has been sitting on this information. They've known. They've had these documents. And they've been, what, just hoping nobody would ask about them? Come on. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust headlines anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Confirmed, we have received some statements from the Justice Department saying, quote, the DOJ and the FBI reviewed the Epstein files and reached the conclusion. So in that statement from the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, they're not directly addressing the most significant part of this, which is the reporting that Trump was told he was mentioned multiple times in these files. Set out in the July 6th memo, nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. We have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. We'll get to that in a second. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings.
Let me paint the picture for you real quick. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who works for Trump, personally told the president back in May that his name shows up multiple times in these files. May, that's 5 months ago. And we're just finding out now because of what
I told y'all a long time ago. Trump was running for president saying, and we're going to release the Epstein file. He was saying anything he can to get people to say, oh, I'll vote for you because I want to see these files or whatever. Then the people who know their names on the file, man, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Relax, people, relax. I can hear Trump now. Relax, relax. You know I'm not going to release them names. My name is on there. It's all smoke and mirrors. That's what he was saying to the people. Oh, okay. All right, well, carry on. You all should vote for me because you know I'm not going to release your name. How about that? Because my name on there. I'm one of you guys. That's how this whole thing works.
Our group had to file a lawsuit to get answers. Can you believe this? This isn't some random blogger making accusations. This is the Wall Street Journal reporting it. This is the House Oversight Committee confirming it. This is Senate hearings where Bondi literally refused to answer questions about whether she told FBI agents to flag Trump's name in the documents. Just refused. Like that's normal. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. Oh, here we go again. Another attack on Trump, fake news, whatever. But hold on. This isn't about whether Trump did anything illegal. Nobody's charged him with anything related to Epstein. That's not what this is about. This is about something way bigger. This is about transparency. This is about trust. This is about whether the American people get to see what their own government knows or whether powerful people get to decide what we're allowed to know. Because here's what's wild. A nonpartisan watchdog group called American Oversight filed a lawsuit on October 6th demanding the DOJ and FBI release any records of interviews with Trump during the Epstein investigations. Interviews, plural, which means, yeah, they talked to him multiple times apparently. And where are those records? Where's that information? Nowhere. Locked away, classified, secret, protected. And this is happening right now while Trump's already in the middle of demanding $230 million from the DOJ for, well, that's a whole other story. But the point is, there's this massive tension between the president and the Justice Department about accountability, about power, about who gets to hide what. The timing here is insane. We've got midterms coming up in 2026. We've got Trump in his second term with no possibility of running again. So theoretically, he's got nothing to lose politically. And yet the DOJ under his administration is fighting tooth and nail to keep these Epstein documents sealed. Why? What's in there that's so dangerous? What's so explosive that the Attorney General has to personally brief the president about his own name appearing in federal investigation files? And here's the kicker. During Senate hearings in October, Senator Dick Durbin straight up asked Bondi about instructions she allegedly gave to FBI agents about flagging Trump's name in these documents. Her response? Silence, deflection, refusal to answer. In a Senate hearing, under oath, presumably, just nothing. Are you kidding me? This is wild, absolutely wild. This is the same administration that ran on draining the swamp, on transparency, on exposing corruption. And now we've got the actual Department of Justice confirming that the president's name is all over documents related to one of the most notorious criminals in modern American history, and they won't release them. The House Oversight Committee confirmed in September that Trump's name is cited repeatedly in released Epstein documents and correspondence. Repeatedly. So some stuff is out there, but clearly not everything, and that's what people are demanding now. Full disclosure, complete transparency, everything. Because if there's nothing to hide, then why are they hiding it? If Trump didn't do anything wrong, if these are just innocent mentions, if it's all explainable, then release the documents. Let people see. Let the public decide. But that's not happening. Instead, we're getting lawsuits, congressional pressure, media investigations, and a whole lot of stonewalling from the very people who are supposed to work for us. So yeah, this story matters. It matters because it's not just about Trump. It's not just about Epstein. It's about whether we live in a country where the government has to answer to the people or whether powerful people get to operate by different rules. And right now, it's looking like door number 2. Let's dig into this. Okay, so here's what most people are missing about this whole situation. And I mean really missing. Okay. Everyone's focused on whether Trump knew Epstein, whether they hung out, whether there's some smoking gun that proves wrongdoing, but that's not the story here, like at all. Whether there's some smoking gun that proves wrongdoing, but that's not the story here. The real story is about institutional power and how information gets controlled. Because let's be real for a second, Trump and Epstein being in the same social circles in New York and Florida back in the day, that's not news. There are literally photos of them together at parties from the 90s and early 2000s. Trump's even made comments about Epstein in interviews years ago. This isn't some secret. What is new, what's actually explosive here, is that the Justice Department conducted investigations into Epstein, interviewed people, compiled documents, and Trump's name came up multiple times during that process. And now the DOJ under Trump's own administration is refusing to release those documents to the public. Think about that for a second. The president's own Justice Department has information about the president and they won't share it. That's insane. That's a massive conflict of interest. And it raises all sorts of uncomfortable questions about who's really in charge here. So let's break down what we actually know versus what we don't know, because there's a lot of smoke, but people need to understand where the fire might actually be. What we know for sure is that Attorney General Pam Bondi, who Trump appointed, personally briefed Trump in May about his name appearing in these files. The Wall Street Journal reported this. It's confirmed. So Bondi knew, Trump knew, and they decided what exactly, to bury it, to ignore it, to hope it would go away. We also know that during Senate Judiciary Committee hearings on October 7th, Senator Durbin directly confronted Bondi about whether she instructed FBI agents to flag Trump's name in Epstein documents, and she wouldn't answer, just flat out refused. And then crickets, no follow-up, no accountability, just another day in Washington apparently. Here's where it gets even weirder. The House Oversight Committee put out a statement in September confirming that Trump's name shows up repeatedly in released Epstein documents and correspondence. So some of this information is already public. We already know his name is in there, but the full context, the complete picture, still hidden. And that's what American Oversight is fighting for with their lawsuit. They filed on October 6th, demanding any records of interviews with Trump during the Epstein investigations. Because if the FBI or DOJ interviewed the current president about Jeffrey Epstein at any point, don't the American people have a right to know what was said? Don't we have a right to know what questions were asked and what answers were given? Come on, this is basic stuff. But here's what's really going on behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. This whole situation ties directly into Trump's broader relationship with the Justice Department right now. Because at the same time this Epstein stuff is blowing up, Trump's also demanding $230 million from the DOJ as reimbursement for investigations he claims were politically motivated. So you've got this weird dynamic where Trump is simultaneously fighting the DOJ over money and accountability while also relying on that same DOJ to protect him from embarrassing revelations about his past associations. It's messy, really messy.
Very
and the
messy.
Political implications here are massive, like massive. We're talking about midterm elections coming up in 2026. Trump's base has always supported him through everything But this Epstein connection is one of those third rail issues that makes people uncomfortable across the political spectrum. Nobody wants to be associated with Epstein. Nobody. So if more information comes out, if these documents get released and there's something really damaging in there, it could fracture Trump's coalition. It could give Democrats a massive weapon going into the midterms. It could reshape the entire political landscape. And Trump knows this. Bondi knows this. That's why they're fighting so hard to keep everything locked down. But here's the thing. The more they fight, the worse it looks. Because transparency advocates and watchdog groups aren't going away. Media outlets aren't dropping the story. Congress is getting more aggressive with their oversight demands. The pressure is building. And there's this other angle that people aren't really connecting yet. Remember when Ghislaine Maxwell got transferred to a different prison facility and everyone was talking about whether she'd reveal more information about Epstein's network? Remember how that whole thing just faded away? No big revelations, no major bombshells, just silence. That's the pattern here. Elite accountability always seems to hit this wall where information gets classified or sealed or protected by executive privilege. And the public is left with questions but no answers. This Epstein file situation is following the exact same playbook. Dangle just enough information to create headlines but withhold the actual substance that would allow people to make informed judgments. And look, I'm not saying Trump committed any crimes related to Epstein. I'm really not. But I am saying that the American people deserve to know what's in those documents. They deserve to know why his name appears multiple times. They deserve to know what the context is and what investigations uncovered. Because if it's all innocent, if it's just mentions of Trump in passing because they knew each other socially, then releasing the documents shouldn't be a problem. It should be easy. Just here you go, full transparency, nothing to hide. But that's not what's happening. Instead, we're getting legal battles and congressional stonewalling and attorney generals who refuse to answer basic questions under oath. And that's what should scare people. Not necessarily what's in the documents, but the fact that our own government is working so hard to keep them hidden. The secrecy itself is the scandal here. The cover-up is becoming worse than whatever the actual content might be. The other piece of this that's fascinating is how different political factions are responding. Trump's hardcore supporters are dismissing this as another witch hunt, another attempt to smear him with guilt by association. And okay, that's a valid concern. We shouldn't assume guilt without evidence, but moderate Republicans and independents, they're not so sure. They're asking questions. They're wondering why the administration isn't just ripping the Band-Aid off and releasing everything if there's nothing incriminating. And Democrats are, well, they're Democrats. They're demanding investigations and hearings and threatening subpoenas, standard operating procedure at this point. But the real battle is happening in the courts. American Oversight's lawsuit is going to force the DOJ to either release the documents or provide a legal justification for withholding them. And that legal justification better be airtight, because if it's just executive privilege or ongoing investigation, people are going to see right through it. The timeline here matters too. Bondi told Trump about this in May. It's now late October. That's almost 6 months of silence. 6 months where they could have gotten ahead of this story, controlled the narrative, provided context, but they didn't. They waited until lawsuits and congressional pressure forced their hand. That's not the behavior of people with nothing to hide. That's the behavior of people trying to manage a crisis. And you know what else is interesting? The way this information is coming out is not through some massive data leak or whistleblower. It's through official government processes, lawsuits, congressional oversight, Freedom of Information Act requests, all the normal channels that are supposed to ensure government transparency. And yet, even with all those mechanisms in place, we're still getting stonewalled. That tells you something about how determined this administration is to keep these documents hidden. And let's talk about the role of American Oversight for a second. This is a nonpartisan watchdog group. They're not some left-wing activist organization trying to take down Trump. They're a legitimate oversight group that monitors government transparency regardless of who's in power. They've gone after Democrats too. So when they file a lawsuit demanding document disclosure, that's not a political hit job. That's them doing their job. That's them holding the government accountable the way the system is designed to work. And the fact that they have to sue to get basic information about whether the president was interviewed in a major federal investigation, that's absurd. That information should be public by default unless there's a compelling national security reason to keep it classified. And nobody's made that case here. Nobody's explained why these documents need to remain secret. So where does this go from here? Honestly, it could go a lot of different ways. The courts could side with American Oversight and order the documents released. That would be huge. That would force the DOJ's hand and potentially expose whatever's in those files. Or the courts could side with the DOJ and allow them to keep everything sealed. That would set a dangerous precedent about executive power and government secrecy. Either way, this isn't going away. The pressure is only going to increase as we get closer to the midterms. Democrats are going to hammer this issue relentlessly. Republicans are going to have to defend their position or break ranks. And Trump is going to have to decide whether to continue fighting or just release the documents and deal with whatever fallout comes from that. All right, so let's break down what actually matters here, because we can get lost in all the details and speculation, but there are really just 4 core points that explain why this story is such a big deal right now. Point number 1, credibility and trust. Trump ran his entire political identity on being the outsider who would expose corruption and drain the swamp. That was the whole thing. Take down the elites, expose the hidden networks, bring transparency to Washington, and his supporters loved that message. They still love that message. But now we've got the Justice Department under his administration actively hiding documents that mention him in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. And like, you can't have it both ways. You can't campaign on transparency and then hide information when it's inconvenient for you. That's not how this works. This creates a massive credibility problem, because if Trump's willing to suppress information about himself, what else is he willing to suppress? What other documents are being hidden? What other investigations are being buried? And before anyone says, but every president does this, yeah, maybe. But Trump specifically said he was different. He said he was going to be the most transparent president ever. He made that a core part of his appeal. So holding him to that standard isn't unfair. It's literally what he promised. And when you break promises like that, especially on issues as sensitive as this, you lose credibility, not just with your opponents, but with your supporters too. Because even the most loyal Trump supporters want transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody is defending Epstein. Nobody wants to see powerful people get away with crimes. So when the administration hides documents related to that case, it looks bad, really bad. Point number 2, legal precedent and accountability. Here's what's really at stake legally. If the DOJ can successfully withhold these documents despite lawsuits and congressional demands, that sets a precedent. It tells future administrations that they can hide pretty much anything as long as they claim it's sensitive or classified or part of an ongoing investigation. That's dangerous, really dangerous, because government transparency isn't just some nice ideal, it's fundamental to democracy. People can't hold their leaders accountable if they don't know what their leaders are doing. The entire system breaks down when government officials can pick and choose what information the public gets to see, and that's exactly what's happening here. The DOJ is making unilateral decisions about what documents should remain secret without any real oversight or accountability. The American oversight lawsuit is crucial because it's forcing this question into the courts. Either judges will side with transparency and order the release of documents, or they'll side with executive power and allow the DOJ to keep everything sealed. That decision will have implications far beyond just this one case. It will set the standard for how much secrecy future administrations can maintain. It will determine whether watchdog groups and ordinary citizens have any real power to demand accountability from their government. And Congress has a role here too. The House Oversight Committee and Senate Judiciary Committee have investigative powers. They can subpoena documents. They can hold hearings. They can threaten contempt charges if people don't cooperate. But will they? That's the question. Because congressional oversight only works if Congress is willing to actually use its power. And in today's polarized environment where Republicans control Congress and might not want to hurt Trump, that's not guaranteed. We might see some tough questions in hearings, but will there be real consequences if the DOJ continues to stonewall? History suggests probably not. Point number 3, political timing in the midterms. We cannot ignore the calendar here. Midterm elections are coming up in 2026. That's barely a year away, and control of Congress is going to be heavily contested. Democrats are obviously going to use this Epstein file story as ammunition. They're going to hammer Trump and Republicans on transparency and accountability. They're going to ask voters if they trust an administration that hides documents about the president's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And that's actually a pretty effective line of attack, because Epstein is universally reviled. Nobody is defending Epstein. So any association with him, even if it's just social or circumstantial, creates political problems. Republicans are going to have to decide how to respond. Do they defend Trump and dismiss this as a partisan attack? Do they distance themselves and call for transparency? Do they just ignore it and hope it goes away? Each strategy has risks. Defending Trump too strongly makes them look complicit in a cover-up. Distancing themselves creates division within the party. Ignoring it makes them look weak and evasive. There's no good option here politically, and Trump knows it. That's why the administration is trying so hard to keep everything quiet until after the midterms. They're hoping that by the time any damaging information comes out, the elections will be over and the political damage will be limited. But that strategy only works if they can actually keep the documents sealed for another year. And with multiple lawsuits and increasing congressional pressure, that's looking less and less likely. The information is going to come out eventually. The only question is when. And if it comes out right before the midterms, that could be devastating for Republicans. It could cost them control of Congress. It could reshape the entire political landscape for the rest of Trump's term. Point number 4, the bigger picture of elite accountability. And this is the part that should bother everyone, regardless of political party. Jeffrey Epstein was connected to dozens, maybe hundreds of powerful people, politicians, business leaders, celebrities, you name it. He was at the center of this massive network of elite individuals. When Epstein died in federal custody under suspicious circumstances, people were promised answers. They were promised full investigations. They were promised that everyone connected to his crimes would be held accountable. But what actually happened? Ghislaine Maxwell got convicted and sentenced to prison. And then nothing. The investigation just stopped. No other arrests. No major revelations. No public disclosure of who else was involved. It's like the whole thing just disappeared from public consciousness. And now we're seeing the same pattern with these DOJ documents. Just enough information leaks out to keep people interested, but not enough to actually reveal anything substantive. It's controlled disclosure designed to minimize damage while avoiding real accountability. That's what makes this story bigger than just Trump. It's about whether our justice system applies equally to everyone, or whether powerful people get special treatment. It's about whether investigations follow the evidence wherever it leads, or whether they stop when things get too uncomfortable for the elite. And based on what we're seeing with these Epstein files, it's looking like powerful people absolutely do get special treatment. They get to hide behind classification and executive privilege in ongoing investigation claims. They get lawyers and PR teams and government agencies protecting them. Regular people don't get that. Regular people get their names leaked to the press. They get charged and tried and convicted. But the elites, they get secrecy and protection. So where do we go from here? Honestly, the next few months are going to be crucial. The American oversight lawsuit is going to force some kind of resolution. Either the courts will order document disclosure or they won't. Either way, we'll have an answer. Congress is going to keep pushing too. More hearings, more questions, more pressure on Bondi and the DOJ to explain their decisions. In the media, well, the media is going to keep digging because this is exactly the kind of story that generates clicks and ratings. Sex scandal, political intrigue, government secrecy, all wrapped into one. The question is whether any of it will actually lead to real transparency, or whether this just becomes another chapter in the endless cycle of Washington scandals that produce headlines but no meaningful change. My guess? We're going to see some documents eventually released, but they'll be heavily redacted, just enough to technically comply with legal pressure, but not enough to actually reveal anything interesting. And then everyone will argue about whether the redactions were justified, and the whole thing will fade into the background. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe the pressure will be too much and we'll actually get full disclosure. We'll see. The bottom line is this. Donald Trump's name appears multiple times in Justice Department documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. That's confirmed. That's not speculation. And the American people deserve to know why, deserve to know the context, deserve to see those documents for themselves. Anything less than full transparency is unacceptable. And if this administration continues to hide information, then voters need to remember that when they go to the polls in 2026, because government secrecy isn't just some abstract policy debate, it's about trust. It's about accountability. It's about whether we live in a country where the powerful have to answer for their actions or whether they get to operate by different rules. And that question, that fundamental question about the nature of our democracy, is what this story is really about. This is about power. This is about who has it and who doesn't. This is about whether the government works for the people or whether the people are just subjects who get told what they're allowed to know. So yeah, keep watching this one because it's not going away anytime soon. The pressure is building. The lawsuits are moving forward. Congress is asking questions and eventually something's going to break. And when those documents finally come out, whenever that is, we'll be here to break it down for you. We'll be here to explain what it all means. We'll be here to hold power accountable the way it's supposed to be held accountable. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I don't know about that one, man. My man with his tone is just straight. I think that's AI voice along with AI video that they created. Maybe not. Who knows? I could be wrong. God dang, man. We're talking about an island, ladies and gentlemen. Epstein had an island where people can fly and get away from the world and be free and work on their fantasy. That's what we talking about. Of course, Trump was there. Of course, all kinds of other presidents and other big people from around the world was there. It's an island. It's our rich and wealthy island. Shh. Nobody tells on nobody. Of course, Diddy was there. The flight laws show everybody who flew over to that island. And of course, our government is going to cover it up. I don't know what to do, man, but I don't know what to say, but we just gotta know that he had an island. Somebody went. Somebody name on there that can afford to go over there and spend, I don't know, weeks and months as a real vacation. That's all I'm gonna say. This man ain't built that island. What else he do? What was his what is his specialty? What does he do? Epstein. Other than the island of Fantasy Island. That's what it's called. That's what you should call it. They was talking about Fantasy Island, that it was a TV series. Where you think they got that from? Epstein ain't the first one to do this. This been going on for years, man. Epstein is not the first one to do this. But look here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Y'all tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.